Welcome to episode lucky number 16, I hope. So here's the plan on this radio, what we're going to do today. We're going to make sure that that IF can is properly tuned to 175 kilocycles or kilohertz. And we're going to use this Jackson 640, which basically is an oscillator. It's a test oscillator. And you can see it's in really good shape. And you can see I have the needle set right there to about 175. And in order to do this test, this radio has to be completely tuned exactly to 175 to work. So I have this frequency counter attached to it right here. And you'll see we're pretty close. I think we just need to go up just a hair. That's a little too much. Sorry, I'm missing it. I'm going to come down just a little tiny bit to 175. And I think that's going to be about it right there. So now we know we're not going to touch this dial. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this lead and we're going to remove the output, the oscillator tube from the radio. And we're going to connect this to the grid of the first detector, which is the top of the tube. And then we're going to tune that can and see if we can get it spot on to 175. Now the one thing you have to remember, you don't want the signal blaring out of this thing. Because what will happen 9 times out of 10 is it'll basically you'll just get a bad adjustment, because there is background noise on a radio, and if you blow the signal out of that thing, you're not going to hear it and you're not going to align it correctly. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to disconnect all this. Let's see what our frequency counter is doing here. Is it drifting a little bit? It's hanging in there. Okay, so we're going to connect this now to our radio and see if we can tune that can. So let me get that set up. Be back. One other thing before we begin the alignment, this is my Lodestar signal generator that I was using, and I have it set right now to 175 kilohertz, and you'll see I've got that there, and look what the frequency counter's got. Let's scroll this thing down a little bit. Look what I'm getting on the frequency counter. So that signal generator is bad, and that's what drove me crazy for the first 2 weeks of this project. Anybody want a bird? It's free. So that signal generator is not working well. Alright, so that's why we're using the Jackson. Be back. Okay, here's our radio. So first thing we're going to do is take out the oscillator tube. That's done. And we're going to remove the top of the first detector. That's gone. Okay? We're now going to take our leads that go to our test oscillator. We're going to connect that to the top of the first detector tube. Right there, so we can get that to stay. And I'm going to connect the other one to ground, like so. Make sure those don't touch. Okay, now on this is the IF coil that has to be tuned. I have it completely closed, so in other words, it's stock, brand new from zero. So let's turn this light off so we don't get any hum. Let's turn the radio on. And let it warm up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn these two screws. There's one here and there's one here. I have the speaker connected. You can hear I'm getting a signal already. You got to remember, I don't want the signal blaring, so I'm going to lower it on the generator. Now you see if I bring the signal down on the generator, see what I get? Okay, so we're going to go up just a little bit. And we're going to go at 50 microvolts on the generator. Okay, now first thing we're going to do is we're going to tune this thing. I'm going to start backing this off slowly. I can hear it starting to want to come in. here is maximum amplitude. So I'm going to bring the signal down on the test oscillator. Okay. And you'll hear that the signal dropped. And we're going to see if we can crank it up again. Okay, we're currently modulating, obviously. Now we've got a little bit of noise back there. What I'm going for here is maximum amplitude. I'm going to say it's right about there. Okay. Now, if I bring the test oscillator up, you'll hear it get real loud, like that. We're going to bring the volume down on the radio. There you go. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, that thing is tuned now to 175. So we're going to take all this off. We're going to put an antenna on it and see what we get. Be right back. Okay, we're going to power it up. Now remember, I didn't touch these caps yet, right? The tuning caps. We're going to tune the radio to about 1400, which on this radio is right at the top, I believe. I have about a 10-foot antenna on it. Now this is a long wire antenna radio, but now, same thing on the tuning caps. We're starting the caps all the way in. And according to the alignment procedure, you're supposed to put the radio on 1400 kilohertz and then turn the center screw until you hear something. The center screw, by the way, goes to the top of the first detector. Nothing there. I think what I may do is put the 175 kilohertz through the antenna and see if I can get it to come out the radio. Maybe by tuning these I'll be able to do it that way. Let me set that up. Be right back. Okay, I have the Jackson 640 again connected. So I have it on high. You can hear it coming through the antenna. If I put it on the 1000 output ratio, you can hear it. It's there. But I'm going to put it a little bit lower. I'm going to put it on an output of 10, and it's barely there. I've got the tuning cap all the way closed. I'm sorry, open. And we're going to see if we can dial this thing in. Starting with the center of the tuning cap. I have to go up to 100 times power output in order to hear something. Turning the tuner has no bearing. Keep in mind, guys, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Not really, I do. I kind of do. But I'm playing a little bit here. But the good news is that I'm getting the signal coming through the antenna, which is good. I still think it's too hot, though. Let's see if we do that. The other thing I wanted to show you real quick is I have it on the first detector, and I still pull the station in. It's just not as loud, obviously, because it's not amplified there yet. But I'm able to pull it in on the first detector as well. Okay, drastic measures call for drastic action. So I took out the oscillator coil, and I'm going to make sure that everything is good. I actually did clean out the terminals. There was a lot of gunk in there, and everything does ohm out well. I'm going to show you, in case one day you decide to restore one of these, how this thing works. So this is your oscillator coil. There's 6 leads on it, and basically it goes in the radio like this, looking at it from the back with the 2 posts, the 2 mounting posts that way, and it works in a crisscross fashion. So this terminal here mates up with this terminal here. It doesn't show you that anywhere in the documentation, of course, so you got to figure it out. So if we ohm this out from here to here, I'm getting about 3.1 ohms. And I'm going to go to the other terminals and make sure there's nothing going there. There's nothing. Okay, the center one here, crisscross, right? So there should be corresponding one on the other end. So we're going to start here, nothing. This is directly across, 3.3, nothing. And our last one is right here, crisscross. So we're going to start here, nothing, nothing, 0.7. So we know that this coil checks out good. All right, so that's not the problem. However, like I said, there was a lot of crap on this on these terminals, and I'm just wondering if maybe something happened there. But well, I don't know. This one is a little too loose for my liking, so I may put a dab of hot glue on there just to hold that in place. Then we're going to put this back in the radio and see what happens. Okay, I do know which way it goes in. I marked it right here with a G. And this one actually connects to the ground strap that's on the coil cans. All right, so let me get it back in. We'll see what happens. By the way, I do have another coil which I can use if I need to, but there's really no reason. This coil is good. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, be back. Of course, after thinking things through for a minute, I realized that if I use hot glue on that terminal, when you solder, it's just going to melt it. So we're going to mix a little JB Weld here, epoxy. And we'll just put a dab of that on there and make sure that thing doesn't go anywhere. Alright, so we're going to let that set up. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, we've got our epoxy. We're going to let it dry real good now. Okay, back. Okay, we put the oscillator coil back in and we have the same problem. So now we're on to the antenna coil. And that's obvious because the antenna coil has the 10K resistor attached to it. It's a junction for the 10K and the 20K resistor that feeds the oscillator. And I'm going to take a look at this coil now. That's next in the loop. One thing that's odd about this, for some reason, it looks like one side is independent and doesn't attach to these. I'm not sure if that's correct. I have to look at the schematic. But we're going to clean all this up and get all this gunk off here, and then we'll check it. So I'll let you know. Well, it was a good theory, but it's not wrong. So here's your antenna coil, and you'll see that 3 of them are tied to ground. 1, 2, 3, and then there's one here. Right? That goes up to the grid. So essentially, if I look at this correctly, these 3 connections should all be tied together, and that is exactly true here. If I look at the coil, holding it this way, these 3 connections are tied together. 1, 2, 3, and this one is independent, right here. Okay? So this checks out. It looks like this is not even attached to a wire. Looks like it's just a connect point. essentially. But the only thing I don't understand here is there is a coil that goes from here to here. Unless it's internally connected down here together, I should still be able to isolate this coil. But I'll have to study a little bit more. Okay? Okay, so we have the radio back together, and it's about 5 days later from when I took the last piece of this video. So I'm gonna show you where we are. I think we're making progress. We'll find out. But essentially, where we are now is if I take my signal generator and connect it to the top of this first detector, I can get the radio to play beautifully. Works perfect. If I take the signal generator, and connect it to the other side of that coil that goes through the first detector tube, plays beautifully. If I take my signal generator and connect it to the antenna terminal, plays beautifully. I can even, doesn't play as strong, but I can even tune with the tuning dial, and I'll lose the station. So what does all that mean? Let's see if we can figure that out, because it means something. So let's take a look at the schematic here for a minute, and I want to show you where we are. Hopefully you can see this. Okay, so here's our first detector tube. I think my battery's dying, so let me change the battery. Okay, we're back. Alright, so here's our first detector tube. If I connect my signal generator here and turn off the modulation, I can tune this radio perfectly. If I connect my signal generator here, I can tune this radio and get it to work perfectly. If I connect my signal generator here, I can get the stations to come through the radio fine, although I'm tuning it on the signal generator, not on the radio. So what does that tell you? Well, it still tells you that this oscillation is not working, because basically what I've learned is that this oscillator tube is nothing more than a signal generator, right? And it's still not doing what it's supposed to do. I'm having a suspicion that it's going to be this interstage coil, because everything seems to work from here back, right, to the speaker, but I can't get it to go from the antenna to here. So I'm thinking that this interstage coil may be bad, and I'll show you on the bottom of the radio where that is. But I'm thinking this may be my problem, or I don't have it connected correctly. So that's going to be my next step, is to look where that's connected. To show you what the interstage coil looks like, let's take a peek under the radio. And we'll move this a little bit so you can see it. And the interstage coil is right here. Okay? It's mounted right here. It has 4 wires. One goes to ground, one goes to the 35 tube, one comes over here to a cap, and the other one goes to a choke right there. Right? So I think that's my problem, but I don't know. We're going to find out. So so I'm going to check the wiring on the interstage coil and possibly replace it. Now I do have a parts radio here, believe it or not. I was able to pick up a 124 chassis that had just completely bad, that has parts in it, and it does have a coil, but it's a different type of coil. It's a tunable coil. So worst case, I'll just disconnect the wires on this thing and pop that in and see if I can get it to work. While I'm doing it, I might as well experiment, right? So just to show you that I'm not too crazy, I have the signal generator right now connected to the antenna. I've got the signal generator tuned, and I'm going to turn the radio on, and I want to show you what I get. So we're going to give this a minute to warm up. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Let me turn the modulation off. That's going right through the antenna. And if I tune this, if I tune the tuner, you can hear I get the station to drift. But I'm only getting that one station. If I turn the dial on the signal generator, So you get the idea. So that's what we've got going on right now. Comes in real nice. So radio plays without it. So anyway, I'm gonna put this radio up now because I still have work to do, and I'm really not gonna put another video up on this until I solve it. I'm actually close to putting this aside for a little bit until I could really think it through, but I really don't want to give up yet because I really want to get this radio done. So we'll put this video up. I'll continue plugging through. When I get something substantial, I'll come back and show you what it is. Okay? In the meantime, while I'm working on this, I'll start to work on the cabinet of the grandfather clock, and we'll look at that clock again and take a look at that. So we're going to continue the series. Just going to try to get this darn thing working. Okay, everybody. Talk to you soon.